Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself in this weird, wild, wacky world of ours, and welcome to another installment of Game of Thrones: Shadow of the Iron Throne. This morning's scene, or this afternoon's scene, is set at the estate of Lord Gallo, located just inside. Actually, no, his estate is located probably just outside the walls of King's Landing, overlooking the bay. Overlooking the bay. It's a rather pleasant little compound, but you wouldn't call it a castle. This is just a stately home, wherein Lord Caldwin, having been, shall we say, manhandled brutally by a gay man, is reclining outside in a long stretch in a long chaise long style chair under a veranda as he is brought ice milk and bowls of raspberries.
Yay. Good Lord, everything hurts.
I got a notification that's like Evan is now live, and I was like, ooh, oh, wait.
You've read the name, haven't you?
Where am I in all of this?
I mean, would you basically? Lord Gallo has given you and your father the use of his home during the tournament, because otherwise you would not have a very comfortable stay in the capital. So you may be wherever he is. Even if you, I assume you have a lady in waiting who will guide you around the unfamiliar surroundings, so we don't hear the crack.
I have I think a maester who probably follows me around and like guides me.
Okay.
I'm going to shuffle in this direction.
You do have a maid, by the way, so you don't have to follow the old. You don't have to have the old man lead you around.
I mean, I imagine I was watching as listening to the tournament. So
You basically have a golden retriever, but it's a serf.
Lord Gallo does actually keep a number of dogs. They are large and pretty.
Good boy.
They currently have a small child playing with them. They look slightly chagrined. They're good boys, though. They are the goodest of boys. But yes.
my father.
You might want to repeat that, my dear. It was very quiet.
I'm gonna approach my father then. He's, I imagine, very injured.
You should like poke him in like the ribs or something. Be like, "How are you?" and then hug him like really hard so he's in immense pain.
I'm gonna hit you with this cane in a minute.
You can try.
I've heard of your loss.
Yes.
Aren't you getting a bit old for jousting?
Do we have to talk about this? Currently, my collar and breastbone are somewhere they shouldn't be.
She kind of just sighs and looks at you. So, what is happening with this investigation?
Well, that's the hard part. Where do we start?
How about we start with the person who gave him a nosebleed?
What, Lady Rivenholt, our ward, who we know for a fact didn't do it.
Well, then what do you suggest?
Surely it's someone who's interested in winning the joust. Which might just happen to be half of the city.
It is at this moment that the large front gates of the property are what I will refer to as agreement. It's a verb.
Oh, Greymonded.
Agreemented.
All right. Okay. So have I been let in by somebody then?
Yes, Lord Gallo's servants will walk forward. Most of them wear the blue dragon symbol of House Gallo with the 3 9-pointed stars. But one of the servants will open the door and he will say, "Yes."
All right. Lord Uland, I'm here to see Lord Coldwin. If I could be permitted, that is.
By all means, please come inside, your lordship. I will see if he is receiving visitors.
I follow him in.
They leave you in an antechamber. Once again, you will also be offered iced milk and raspberries.
No, thank you. Only wine for me.
They will go and get you wine.
I'm on a strict diet.
Yeah, Daddy drinks his meals.
The servant walks outside. He bows respectfully and he says, "Lord Caldwin, there is a Lord Uland to see you. Are you receiving company today?"
Lord Coldwin will struggle up from the Shea Lounge, grabbing the cane which he now has, helping himself up to his feet, groaning as he does so. Yeah, send him in.
As you say,
That stings.
he will walk back into the antechamber and he will say, "My Lord Uland, Lord Caldwin will see you. If you'd please follow me, sir."
Lead away.
He leads you out. Basically, they're on like a patio that overlooks the sea.
Oh.
There's a small pond in front of you. It's pleasant.
Wonderful. Scent of flowers at the seaside almost covers the shit of King's Landing.
Pretty much.
Smell follows you everywhere from what I've found.
Yep.
Can't get away from it.
If either of you want to make, actually, if Lord Uland, so this is your first time here, if you want to make me a difficulty 7 education check or knowledge check.
Knowledge. Let's have a look. See.
No, I can't do that. I'm retarded.
Difficulty 7, so 3 dice. Game of Thrones chat. I almost did it in like ritual dice and.
Yeah. I rolled the entirety of House Ducat there before I realized I was rolling in the wrong room.
Just damn it. Slash roll 3d6. Oh, 7.
Okay, you don't succeed with any degree of success. Basically, this home was built by a man named Lord Daraxus Gallo, who would be the grandfather of the current Lord Gallo when he served as Hand of the King under King Jaehaerys II.
I like Jaehaerys II. He's probably my favorite Targaryen just because he got died in the Big Deaded very quickly.
Yes.
He also knighted me, so...
But yes, this house was built when there was a Gallo Hand of the King, and so it actually occupies some pretty decent real estate, generally speaking, because the wind from King's Landing blows in the opposite direction, so it doesn't smell of excrement.
Thinking ahead.
But the servant will bow and he will say, "Are there any refreshments that my lords or ladies require?"
I'm quite all right, thank you.
My lords?
Do believe I sent for wine.
Yes, sir.
Bring more ice milk.
As
And
you
it
wish, my lord.
I need to like avoid calling him Manny in the presence of anybody that isn't like, you know, his local like people. Because if people realize that I'm just like Manny, it's not.
Please
going.
don't hug me.
Yeah, cat. Yeah.
But the wine is brought out. It is once again very expensive Arbor Gold.
Oh, aye.
Actually, they'll bring out 2 carafes. One contains Arbor Gold. The other contains a much drier Dornish Red, because they don't know which one you like.
Oh, well, you know.
They just leave them both down with 2
Yeah.
separate glasses for you, so you don't even have to cross-contaminate the glasses.
Arbor Gold it is. For the Dornish.
But with that, they leave you alone.
To what do I owe the pleasure?
I mostly came to see how you're looking up.
Everything hurts, but hurts far less than it would have if your maester didn't tend to me so quickly.
Yeah, I do believe this house has got one, but he couldn't have exactly been there for the tourney and at home, so, you know, saved you the trouble, I suppose. Wouldn't want to limp back.
Certainly not. Anyway, we were just discussing the matter of, well, our recently departed Sir Fossaway. Brandon,
Oh.
his name was.
Oh, yeah. I like the fossil ways. I've said that like 3 or 4 times over the period of this, but going to say another 2 at least before people will forget about it.
Which one?
What, the fossil ways or the dead one or the one that I killed or what?
Which branch?
I'm being deliberately
Which
vague
one?
here.
That's fair.
But, you know, if your ward headbutts somebody else, don't expect me to suddenly, you know, take your side over somebody else because, you know, that person is being an aggressor.
Oh no.
No, the Fossways have always been decent. Well, you know, the original ones, that is. Can't say they earned their lordship through anything particularly fantastic, but nonetheless, respectable people. It's a shame he died. Any clues yet as to who did it?
No, not from what we've seen.
Lord
I've never
Caldron
met-
will now.
Hmm?
He's going to turn to. I'm assuming he has some of his knights present.
I mean, how many people did you bring with you?
I think there were about 10 of us. That's
Then-
including me and Sarissa.
Then yes.
He's going to be like, "Could you go retrieve the knife?"
Yes, my lord. One of the men, he's got long flaxen hair, bows before he turns on his heel and he departs inside the house.
Ah, yes, Sir Ben, who has a high capacity anus. Just you gotta put the knife somewhere. It's gotta be discreet.
We do have some clues as to who it is.
Well, I
We have
don't
the
know for
apparent
sure.
murder weapon.
I realise that it's the obvious, someone interested in the tournament, but you could narrow it down assuming you could tick off who is and is not willing to commit murder for such things. Also, perhaps people who might have a motive to murder him irrelevant of the tournament itself,
Maybe it was someone desperate.
or someone with a grudge.
About this time, he will return with a small wrapped bundle. He will pass it to Lord Caldron.
He will take it and he will unravel it and present the knife.
It is a nondescript blade that could have been bought in any one of the many shops along the streets of Steel. It is, you'd probably define it as a stiletto-like blade, so it's designed to slip in between armor and looks to be brutally sharp.
Does it have a maker's mark, or is it just
It does
Okay.
not have a maker's mark.
bueno?
Actually, no, my apologies. It did have a maker's mark, but the maker's mark has been vandalized off. You couldn't possibly tell who it was.
Okay. Well, I suppose you could go round between the different blacksmiths on that road and ask each one individually whether they remember making a knife of such a type. That would be quite the faff. You'd be best off first speaking to one of the Fossaways, likely the squire of the late lord.
I suppose you make a point. Who was the man's squire anyway?
Fucked if I know.
He was being the boy who was being squired for him was an individual named. Sorry, I have this written down. Carland Westerling.
Hmm.
The Westerlings obviously being a house from the Westerlands.
Makes sense.
Perhaps we should go find this squire.
Oh, you're more than welcome to. Look, mate, I realise this is a pretty serious situation for your ward, but you did bloody well headbutt somebody that didn't deserve it. And whether that's got her in trouble or not, it's none of my fucking business. Now, Manny,
I'm
you're
aware.
a decent gent, and I've always appreciated your company throughout the campaigns that we've been involved in. But I must say, this is your own business, and if I get involved, it would be quite the extension of my own stuff. I have plenty of stuff to be planning, as it were.
I'm aware you've helped me more than is really necessary.
We would not possibly burden you by asking you to help us in this situation.
I raised my cup, but like I said, go see the squire. Maybe hand the knife round if you don't get results. I don't know why he's fucking. He sounds like the crab guy from Dinotopia. What's he called? I forget that character's name, but I've accidentally adopted that guy's accent, not the Westlands accent.
My. A voice comes from the other side of the another side of the patio. I had been told that Lord Uland was my guest today. A pleasure, my lord.
Pleasure as always, Lord Gallo.
Yes, you've come to see our poor patient, I fear.
Seems to be faring quite well, all things considered.
For the record, Lord Gallo enters. As he does so, there's a man who enters with him who's almost as big as Lord Uland, who also has a poleaxe, but he's carrying it with him. It's a much more kind of ritualistic-looking poleaxe than the one that you carry.
Yes. So chunky.
But because I assume that Lord Uland's a very kind of functional, over sentimental kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, his stuff is quite nice, but it's not, embroidered or anything like that.
It's more than the fact I draw attention to the axe because this guy's married to his axe. There you go. But Lord Gallo steps in. He has Lady Drakemire on his arm, as ever. She doesn't seem to leave his arm very often. But he will say, I trust that you're enjoying our hospitality.
Certainly. As is with all Westermen, you are more than what? I'm trying to think of the word here. You're more than welcoming.
We do our best. Were you watching the joust the other day? I must say that even though he defeated my honoured guest, Sir Coldman, Sir Loris had perfect form.
Yes, I would concur. It's fortunate that your sponsor wouldn't be facing off against such a talented young knight.
No, unfortunately, the poor individual whom I sponsored has to go up against the Kingslayer. Actually, no, he won't call Jaime the Kingslayer because he's a Westerman. Has to go up against Sir Jaime Lannister. My liege lord's son is indeed multiple times blessed.
Yes, well, it's fortunate that he is a better swordsman than he is a jouster, or so I've heard. Nonetheless, a skilled opponent.
I'm more concerned about the pauper lord. What's his name? Ash, that's it. Lord
Yes,
Ash.
I heard he has to face the mountain.
Oh, good lord! If he wins,
He's quite a petite lad.
Sir Gregor is and has earned his name.
Indeed, he
I saw him
has.
take a horse. I saw him take a horse's head clean off at the tourney at Highgarden with a single swing of his great sword.
I've heard many tales about him.
I rode down to Lord Stark during Robert's rebellion to King's Landing. I saw what happened to the capital firsthand.
yes, he's quite the sore loser. I've heard. If I might say, even if he wins, he may lose.
Quite. But I do hope that I have not interrupted a private conversation.
Oh no, of course not. We were having a conversation about Lord Colbin's ward.
Yes, rather nasty business. I am.
She's rough around the edges.
Oh, certainly.
I'll admit that.
But I would say that I don't think she seems to be the type of person to sneak into someone's room at night and do such a dirty deed without looking the person in the eye. Not the impression I received.
She's much
She
more
broke the
honourable
man's
than
nose at the king's own banquet table.
Yes, absolutely. A rather blasé move, I would say, but regardless, hardly seems characteristic of that same person to then go and stab them in the night.
She's much more honourable than that.
Seems more the work of a padfoot. The oldie bandit.
I know what it is. He contemplates that for a moment, as he looks at you. For the record, Lord Gallo has different coloured eyes. So one of his eyes is a very, very brilliant purple. The other is a very odd kind of sickly green colour.
Yes, heterochromia, a common issue caused by incest. Hmm.
You don't say that to him, do you?
No, God, no. I don't want to go to. I'm drinking his
I'm just
wine
look-
for fuck's sake.
I love asking him. I'm not going to insult a man when I'm drinking his shit.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm looking at Lord Gallo's photo, and now I've seen something. I can't unsee it, but it looks like he's looking off in two different directions.
Ever watchful.
Sorry to ruin your photo, Evan.
I know he's not. He's looking like the other eye under the hair is following the other eye. But yeah. He says, we are all merely the sum total of our time, but yes, needless to say, I've personally been enjoying the tournament. Other than, of course, the unfortunate incident with Lord Fossaway, it appears to have gone off rather splendidly. I hope the hand is pleased.
Never known Ned to be that for pleasantries.
I must say, I didn't see Ned actually in the stands. He doesn't say Ned. He says
Well-
Lord Stark. Just
Well, considering the amount of money that King Robert has borrowed from Lord Tywin to host this little soiree, I should hope that he is at least entertained.
Certainly, but I do think the person being entertained by such an event is not Ned himself, but the king. Robert's always been a what's the word? Fantastic fighter, skilled and honourable man. Woe betide you if you face him on the battlefield. But when it comes to his home life, he is. I've hunted with him on the occasion in the Kingswood, given my locale, as it were. And yes, he has a taste for the expensive.
The king has only to command, and the Westerlands provide.
Well, so I've heard Tywin is not exactly one for being led on when it comes to debts.
Lord Tywin is providing for the future of the realm. Not only for the realm, but for his grandchildren.
And his daughter, of course.
Of course.
As we all would.
I beg your pardon?
And she just says, as we all would.
Indeed. Unfortunately, he was kept to Castle Rock and could not attend the tournament himself. He ordered me to communicate his warm feelings to His Majesty and to Lady Cersei. Ironic, considering the king's certain... He flicks his hair, distaste for certain familial traits.
Hmm.
I thought he'd quite enjoy the tournament.
Oh. Never actually met Lord Tywin at a banquet or feast. He's always been a busy man, as it were. I think, as far as I can recall, the last time I seriously spoke to the man outside of pleasantries was what way? When he was knighted, actually. God, that was a long time ago. Yeah, Grayman rubs his rather grey beard.
I do hope that you're enjoying our wine, Lord Udon.
Oh, it is excellent.
I shall have to send your thanks, or I shall have to send your compliments to my wine steward.
Certainly. The Westlands is, a finer taste for such things. Fortress Stormlands is, well, lacks the land, as it were, to grow such fine grapes.
Our own land is far too arid to grow anything of real, well, our land produces, our land does not necessarily grow.
Yes, I concur. Most of this is the area of the Reach. I suppose
Ours
the
is just
Dornish
very
or
stony.
Indeed. But in that case, I shall leave you two old friends to your conversations. He looks at Clarice and he says, "Do you wish to stay here, or do you wish to accompany me into the capital?"
I think I'll stay. Darren's having such fun with the dogs. I wouldn't want to tear him away.
As you like.
Daron. Excellent name.
Yes, I quite agree.
If my lords would excuse me. My lady. Lord Gallo bows ever so slightly before he strides from the room. The huge man follows in his wake. There's a whisper of silk.
Ooh. That alarm haunts me.
It's just like when you wake up before your alarm and it's about to go off, and you're like, go on then, do your duty. Oh.
Father, surely we should have our knights send for the squire.
No. I'll go out myself.
Are you sure you should be going anywhere in your condition, Lord Caldwin?
I concur. You're not going to heal particularly quickly if you're walking around, or hobbling for that matter.
I suppose you do make a point.
And
But there is business that does need to be done.
I would feel much
And
more...
that can be done from here.
Sorry, Sophie.
That's fine. She just said, I would also worry much if you went out. I'd feel reassured if you stayed here, so...
See, you wouldn't want to upset your daughter now, would you?
Do you have a squire?
I do.
I suppose writing a letter shouldn't be too strenuous.
I suppose you make the point.
Yeah. Grayman sips his wine. Well, wish you luck in your investigation. I believe, actually, in fact, there will be a another one of a different sort. What with this Craighole incident?
Certainly. Must say I'm not the biggest fan of the capsule. Always have to second guess what someone says to you.
Aye. Unless, of course, there's coin involved.
Do you have to be careful around
That's-
here?
I suppose you make the point. And where are my manners? Lady Drakemar, how are you doing this fine day?
Oh, it is a lovely day, isn't it? I'm doing quite well. And yourself, Lord Caldwin, aside from the, well, the obvious.
Things hurt where they did yesterday.
Well, good.
That Loris has a bright future ahead of him.
Sorry. Ah, yes, woe betide. Should we be so lucky as to find someone who would wed him?
I heard of his great skill and his handsome looks.
Yes, he is quite the pretty boy, isn't he?
I wouldn't know. But he does sound it.
I would say that an accurate description would be he is as fair as a knight that he is of his looks.
Sounds quite charming.
Aye. You could say that.
I have not personally met him myself.
Best just hope he fares as well in battle as he does on the tournament.
Yes, he seems particularly talented at jousting, but suppose the boy is young and he's yet to have seen the taste of battle. Sure, that will come up soon.
His brother Garland, though, is said to be quite good.
Aye, is he not competing in the joust? I didn't see him on a listing.
Believe he's in the
Oh,
along with Forrest Amir.
joy.
Think we got to see that flaming sword again.
Well, it's fortunate I don't have a horse. Well, I do, but not one that I would ride into battle anytime soon, that is. Especially with a flaming sword around. Just like just meanwhile with the horse, it's just like, horse, how are you doing? Could you make me a difficulty 9 rot check?
Once again, the servant bobs his head and he says, "My lords, excuse me, there is a Lord John Fossaway to see you."
Ah. Send him in.
A few moments later, into the room strides a very, very, I wouldn't say built-looking man, but a very strong-looking man. In you'd say his late 30s, early 40s. I'll get up his picture now. There you go. He is flanked on both sides. He has brought 4 men with him, who are all armed and armored.
Well, I'd be sus.
Lord Fossaway.
Lord Caldwin, pleasure to make your acquaintance.
A pleasure.
She just bows.
It seems to me, Lord Caldwin, that you, as the overlord of certain individuals, owe my family a blood debt.
Or does he
I
now?
believe that is correct.
I assume you have evidence, of course, aside from motive.
The criminal is held in the king's dungeon, awaiting the king's pleasure and the king's headsman's axe. What more evidence is required?
A fair point. Nonetheless, I've always assumed Reachmen to be that men of honor, knights as they were, people who would be absolutely confident before taking the life of a girl so young.
She openly assaulted my nephew in the middle of the king's banquet hall.
Aye. And he didn't stand up particularly fast, did he?
Is that an insinuation, sir?
No, I'm sure he's quite competent. He seems like a talented knight from what I'd heard. It's just unfortunate, the situation in itself. I find it honestly, being realistic here, that a person who would be so brash, so brazen to headbutt such an honourable man would stab a knife in them at night. It's uncharacteristic.
Is it uncharacteristic for the mountain clans who rob, pillage, and rape their way up and down the Vale of Erin and then disappear back to their mountain strongholds when it suits them?
You see, sir, but she was not raised. She was with them. She was raised with us. And
Yeah, she's a ward of a knight of Arran.
And growing
Indeed.
up with her, I can assure you she's much more honourable than that.
The Knights of Erin understood a valuable lesson once under Sir John the Falcon Knight Erin, when it was they did not speak to the mountain clans, they executed and burned them out of whatever pitiful holdings that they had. Now, this domestic debacle of yours has come to the capital. And the fact of the matter is that my nephew lies dead, and it's and on whose hand is it? A Wilden savage, proving once more it's in the blood.
Well, I'm going to defer to Lord Coldwin on this one. But what I would say is, God's help you if it comes to a trial by combat.
I'm just gonna ask very politely, Lord Fossaway. Did your nephew have any enemies, so to speak?
My nephew was a young man. He's done many. He had yet to truly sample the world outside the sparring ground. He had no enemies that I know of. No, that is not to say that they did not exist, but that is to say that I did not know them.
I do not believe my ward responsible for this act. Like I said, I've seen her since she was a babe, and
So you're the one responsible for the manners, teaching her to headbutt young men at the king's table. If she was with you from a babe,
she's always been a difficult child.
yes, and that is why you don't spare the lash. Ultimately, Lord Caldwin, this matter will be settled in the King's Court, but understand this. It's in the blood. Like a rabid dog, you cannot teach the barbaric to become civilized unless you break them first.
Lord, I understand that you are grieving and that may affect your disposition. Naturally, given the, current situation, you are negatively inclined toward Lord Coldwin. But I would say that it would be doing a disservice for you to not at least be cooperative.
You are quite right, Lord Uland. We will be as cooperative as we can be in this endeavor. However, when this matter goes to the King's Court, you and I both know that they will have this menace. Well, she may be offered the headsman's axe, as would be befitting of a noble station. Either that, or quite frankly, she can be strung up from a tree for all I care. My lords, with that, he will simply turn and he will storm from the room.
What an asshole.
Honestly.
I mean, look, all I'm going to say is, are you sure he's not a green Fossway? Because look at that fucking guy's forehead. Look at it.
Ironically, he is a green Fossaway.
He even looks like an apple. Oh, oh, sour
Like-
boy.
Lord Caldwin is going to call.
From now on,
Lord Caldwin is going to call his
for the record,
squire.
I'm gonna introduce a fact. He is so sour, in fact, that he is known as Lord Crabapple.
Oh, I don't wish to add crab apple to bad apple on my apples that I have eaten.
Continue, because that was funny.
just Lord Graham are like, oh, it's so sour.
But why did you lick him, my lord? I had to know.
Oh god. Good grief.
I was raised with this woman. I know she would not do such a thing, and she's not much of a. She's not as savage as he claims.
Yes, he was quite presumptuous.
He's never met the girl properly.
Someone fetch me a paper and a quill.
Lord Ulan would do that thing. You know when like you don't want to do something, but you want to look like you're trying to do something. So you do that thing where you just pass the cup between your hands, like you're trying to do something while somebody else does it. That's what he's doing.
But a pen and ink is brought out.
He is going to write that letter for the squire.
What letter?
He's going to write a letter so he can meet with the squire because he wants to talk to him about the late Brandon Fossaway.
I suppose you could post that on the Facebook page once you got it done.
All right. So with the departure of Lord Crabapple, I think we're good to. I love how tickled that has like Scott is just tickled. By that.
Every time you bring it up, I just look at that man's forehead and I'm just like,
Do you think he gets one of his servants to polish it before he leaves?
Squire, fetch the pig fat.
On that note, we're going to end our seed. So thank you guys. Thank you for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. This has been another seed in Shadow of the Iron Throne.